I highlighted this quite a bit during the M series as well. I don't really like Gatot as the main form of engage because Avatar the Guardian can be a bit unreliable. So since they went CC, they still don't really have that, which might make their team fighting a little bit more difficult. So they're going more for a skirmish style right now with CC and Joy having high mobility to maybe split up the team fight against LZE.
Yeah, even CC got some decent buff lately. It's not the biggest one, but I think they increased like her attack range, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
for the yo-yos. Yeah, so that it does make it slightly more bearable, especially in lane where she already kind of excels in 1v1. But the Jawhead Arlet from LZE Esports, so talk about having multiple initiations that Blacklist lacks, while LZE Esports has more than just one of them.
Yeah, I do like the options that LZE have gone for here. These are two heroes that are able to hold their own fairly well. Jawhead especially is going to help deal with the Joy a little bit in the early game, but it also means that you're going to have to commit those resources to MP quite often, since Joy is still going to be very, very slippery. And Arlet, unfortunately, isn't really going to win lane against CC most of the time, so the goal there is just to try and hold it against a Blacklist International, who will finish things off with the Valentina. Very classic pick for Haji in the mid lane.
How could we have forgotten about it? It actually did cross my mind, but I wasn't sure because LZE hadn't picked their last two picks. But with the Arlet on their end, this Valentina now makes a lot more sense. You could steal that final slash and have a second layer of initiation for your team when needed. I think Blacklist definitely had a very good idea with that last pick going into this. It's quite rare that you see the mid laner getting shoved in the last in the last pick. So I think this adjustment definitely gave Blacklist a lot more agency to work with in this game one. But what do you feel about the draft, or like which team sort of has the skills in their favor?
I personally feel like Blacklist International has a slightly more solid lineup, but it is also a little bit more difficult to play with. In the early game, LZE Esports will have a slight advantage if they're able to play around the Jawhead and Zeusin mid-roam combo, because that is a huge amount of displacement. If you're able to play that around with Suyo, who has very good early game burst, to try and stifle the early game momentum of Joy, it will give LZE Esports a bit more space to play around, and space is going to be a very important factor in this game in particular, because neither of these teams are playing your classic front to back, right? It's very, very skirmishy.
We'll jump into game one and see if LZE Esports can surprise us. And interestingly enough, we talk about Blacklist having this skirmishy hit and run comp and LZE Esports having a lot of displacement. It seems to me, on paper at least, that it is a decent solution to deal with Blacklist, right? They want to come in and get the drive-by, but you have so many ways to just lift them out of position and isolate them from the rest of the team.
And the difficult part though is that, like we mentioned, right, JM going to have a much better lineup against Dur in the EXP lane, so that already reduces a bit of the map pressure that LZE would like to have in the early game. And in comparison, a lot of the burst damage on LZE is put on Shizo and James Pan specifically. So if MP is able to just dive into the back line and separate them alongside JM, hold on.
And he grabs Ziva back, and that would be first blood going over to LZE. The Jawhead picks up the kill, and JM wants to go for the Jawhead, doesn't find him. Pakbet gets out, flickers traded on both sides.
Unfortunate for Blacklist, weren't able to get more than that, but First Blood is still going to be very, very good. And even forcing out the Revitalize, Perxiva wasn't able to survive that. So already a pretty good start and good response here from LZE to make sure that they didn't give away more kills. The early game is a very important timing for them with this mid-roam and jungle combination. Oh,
well, Turtle taken by LZE. That's a lift back. Chovskirts tries to go for multiple targets. The flicker committed by Dirt. That's another kill for LZE. So they have 3 so far, but at least Haji was able to secure one on the way out. Still gonna get lifted back.
Oh,
yeah, a couple of displacement. Out of this world, steals the Juicin now, still gets lifted back, but Chove doesn't have the mana, so Haji escapes.
And that is why the man is still known as the KDA machine, turning around that situation. Definitely a bit too deep of a dive there. I think LZE didn't consider the possibility of the Zeus'in ult being stolen to give just that extra bit of durability at the end, because otherwise that should have been a kill. Now this Valentina is 2-0, but now Pergiva
gonna use the AOG just to escape. So big engage 2 eliminated, but thankfully for Blacklist, no objectives, no point of interest on the map just yet. So he's gonna have it back up for Necturno. They're not so lucky though, tries to use the Vengeance to gain some distance, refreshes the Demon Mark, but MP the King on the K. James Punks re-engages, gets the stun off. MP the King gets out, but Outplay will not.
Outplayed, gonna be ganked on the opposite side of the map. That is good communication there from LZE, right? They see that the enemy jungle is on the top half of the map. They instantly rotate over to punish the less manned gold lane and give Shizo a little bit of that lead. This is a Harif versus a Granger, so Shizo will have the natural early to mid game advantage, and the more they snowball, the slower they can delay the stacking of Outplayed on this Granger. LZE, I still think, is the easier composition to play, especially early to mid game. So this is the timing that they have to capitalize on the most.
Yeah. We also are noticing some of the advantages LZE Esports has. Because how is Blacklist going to open up the map without the Gatar, right? And you're running into a Jawhead Jusin who could just, again, displace you like they do now. Revitalize can get used, Final Slash on the 2 jungle. Turtle stolen by MP the King. Shido joins the fight. He's in the middle of all of it. Chrono dashes out of the way. MP the King is just dancing around the battlefield. Dur will not survive, unfortunately. Will just have to give his life up. Double kill for Outplay. Shizo now trapped underneath his own turret. JM Pigman not able to get out. Chove on his tail, lifts him back. Not in turret range, but still beams him down. Either way, Blacklist wins the fight, gets the objective, and now Haji once more. Death Sonata into a snipe mega kill for Outplay.
A massive victory here for Blacklist International. They basically did wipe the entirety of LZE Esports there. And LZE unfortunately made the mistake of getting a little bit overconfident in their engagement. They wanted to take out Perxiva before the turtle fight could begin, but this is a Catan. It's still going to take a lot of resources to take him out. And because they used all of their cooldowns, it's instantly go time for Blacklist. They normally would not be that good in a straight up 5v5 situation, but when LZE is not positioned for it and have already used a bunch of their important abilities, it becomes very easy for them to run them down. MP, even being able to steal a turtle on top of it, instantly reverses momentum in favor of Blacklist International.
A lot of single target controls from LZE, but like you said, very cooldown dependent. We saw MP just dancing around the backline of LZE Esports. But all things considered, we're looking at a 2k gold lead for Blacklist International. No turrets have been felled just yet. 6 minutes into the game. Pretty slow considering that all the fight that has happened so far, right? 12 total kills across both teams.
Yeah, the ideal for LZE in engagements is to slow it down and catch Blacklist when they're separate, because their composition is very good at doing that. If they're not able to do that and just try and run them down instead, we already see what Blacklist is capable of. This is a team that actually it does have a pretty glaring weakness, and that Gatot is the only form of engage. I already highlighted it during the draft. So if they can force Perxiva to use up his resources beforehand, Blacklist instantly has to position very defensively. So slower, more controlled engagements are preferred here for LZE. Notice for now, they're controlling the turtle pit.
Perxiva tries to use the AOG, gets control, he goes down, flick a final slash. Ooh. Good engage from Dur. And this time, LZE Esports does the prep work just right, finding 3 kills and an eventual turtle at the cost of just their roamer.
That's exactly what I was talking about, right? You take out Perxiva first, then slowly displace the rest of Blacklist, because after that, they just don't have a front line, right? Especially since JM went for Flicker instead of Vengeance on this CC. Perxiva is the only real tank that Blacklist can depend on. I think LZE positioned themselves really nicely there. We're able to get the turtle, now even up the net worth lead. And if they can continue building this up, it will be great, because Blacklist is quite heavily depending on the third to fourth item spike on MP and Outplayed before they can really make an impact in team fights.
That's the... Wow, for a while I thought it was the AOG for Perxiva. He was just buffering the taunt. So far we've been seeing Blacklist react to LZE, because LZE is the one trying to displace targets, going for these pickoffs. Like how they did with Perxiva again, they're just no going out. They're gonna send him straight back to the fountain. But is there a way for Blacklist to take initiative, right? Get it engaged off, or is it going to be a constant tug of war where they have to wait for cooldowns from LZE?
Well, speaking of, LZE gonna find Outplayed again, tries to throw him, uses the flicker, so the Granger is out. But to answer your question, Husky, Blacklist literally cannot start a fight. They just do not have the lineup to do it. Because again, Avatar of the Guardian is not a reliable fight starter. The only way they can be the ones in control is if LZE makes a mistake and overcommits, like we saw in that one fight earlier in the game. Otherwise, with Azusin and Jahid, LZE will always have vision control and zoning potential. Blacklist are the ones that have to slow it down, wait for resources to be committed so that MP can go in later while whittling them down from behind with the Granger. Otherwise, LZE controls most of the fights until scaling really kicks in.
You can see Lord spawns right now, and MP just got his Holy Crystal. Then the pullback of the Perxiva, Pugback can't get it right now, so could be an opportunity to re-engage with the AOG. Crimson Beacon used, but MP just danced on the top of Chope. Chope will disengage, but this fight is already done. JM Pigman on top of Dur goes down. Double kill for MP, and Blacklist now has the Lord open for business.
If they're able to catch LZE off guard themselves, then that's actually pretty good, but LZE still looking to try and contest here.
Shield damage out of this world. Still though, Blacklist International secures the Lord. This is going to be finally a tool for them to accelerate the game a little bit. But I mean, all these considered, right? Like Perxiva, he's been having a pretty rough time. But Blacklist International, they're starting to hit those power spikes, especially MP with that Holy Crystal damage. He is just ripping through LZE Esports health bars.
Yeah, like I mentioned, once we see the third, fourth item timing come in for MP and Outplayed, Blacklist's mid to late game damage is actually terrifying, right? They're able to whittle down LZE from afar, and a lot of these heroes on LZE's side are going to start dropping off in like general utility, right? Jahid especially is going to feel the heat of not being able to survive damage quite a bit. So Perxiva, even though he's been having a rough time, right, that is kind of expected as the solo Gatot. You know you are going to die a lot against a Jahid Zusin. If you're able to throw away, to force out all of their resources, it is actually very worth it at this point. Because Blacklist, they don't really even... Oh!
Whoa! That's a straight up assassination.
Well. Oh, that's unfortunate right there. A little bit of... underestimation, because I didn't manage to bring this up earlier because I just didn't have the time to do it, but James Punks has a Sky Piercer, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Not your classic item choice on Suyo. He actually bought it when his score was 0-2. So I wondered, like, is this a good idea? But in situations like that, well, you can see the effect.
Yeah. And you just blow them up before they could do much, right? I suppose it also makes sense that the whole idea is to displace your enemy, you know, like how in Trex's word, give him a stiff arm treatment and take them down when they're isolated. Perxiva does engage with AOG, but look at him dropping like 5-4-man final slash from Dur, setting it up for the rest of LZE. Haji will not get out, and KDA is ruined. MP getting out of the fight, but Blacklist just lost 3, and a second Sky Piercer for LZE, this time on Chove's.
I will continue saying it. Gatot as your primary, and in this case, only initiator, is just not good enough. You started the fight with Avatar the Guardian. What are you going to do next, right? And it was even in a funnel. Blacklist's positioning was just not good enough, and then they all got caught in the final slash. It was an absolute disaster. And now LZE Esports is fully in control. They gotta slow it down more. Blacklist cannot be the ones jumping the gun, because the only way they win fights is by forcing LZE Esports to be the ones to do it instead.
Is it finally time for Haji to start considering that I need to help out my Gatot by somehow getting the final slash, if he even has vision of Dur? Because I don't think the Arlo has exposed himself to this Valentina the entire game, at least not enough for Haji to steal that final slash away.
Yeah, I think Dur has been doing a very good job of keeping his positioning apart, because he knows that without that final slash, Blacklist just don't have any alternative way of engaging, right? But now the Lord being contested once again.
Perxiva once more just got controlled to oblivion. Pugman barely escaping with the life. The eject button did give him the shield. The big arrow from James Punks as well. There's 3 members of Blacklist. It's getting chunked out in the bush. So back to square one. LZE Esports, they can do this all day. Final slash did get stolen by Haji though. Third was just on the edge of the bush, so he's not gonna get hit. JM Pinkman though will go down as Shizo gets a mega kill streak, and this is certified Lord for LZE Esports.
You know, I think this is like a very appropriate situation because Shizo is using the new Killua Hunter x Hunter skin. And anyone who watches the show knows that Killua's electric mode is called Godspeed. And Shizo is called Shizo God. So I couldn't have lined it up better myself, Husky. It's just like fate coming into play here.
I went for a 10 draw and I got the skin, so yeah, it makes me happy to see Killua getting featured in the first game. Getting off to a good New Year start for sure.
Having a great time here. Harif is a hero that got recently buffed, like we mentioned during the draft. Able to do damage more consistently, has more access to dashing. In exchange, the dash distance was reduced slightly, but it really doesn't matter. Oh!
Well, again, Perziva, he's out, and a big control in the backline. AOG was used to escape, but Shizo needs to go down, and he will. MP the King gives in a 10,000 volt treatment. Similar Electric Cat, that's a double kill for MP the King, and Blacklist International stays alive.
That was a bit of a mistake. I actually quite like the aggressive play to catch out Perziva, but I really don't know why Shizo went that deep in. He got caught in the curtain call, and then it was actually just curtains for him because Harif needs that freedom of movement. Blacklist now fully capitalizing.
And double Sky Piercer going to work, but it's actually just enough to take down 2 members on the side of Blacklist. LZE Esports does get wiped out, but Punkbet will be back up. And unfortunately, Blacklist, they just do not have the resources to take any inhibitors, and they even lost one of their own. The top inhibitor just went down, bottom one has a big wave pushing in, the mid one is also in shambles. So all LZE Esports needs to do is just to give it a bit of a love tap, and all those structures will start crumbling.
I gotta give props to Lazy though. That play takes some guts. It is really risky to throw your 2 remaining living players at 4 members of the enemy team when the rest of your squad is like still quite some time away from respawning and the crystal could be exposed, right? The fact they were actually able to trade for 2 members meant that Blacklist couldn't push any further. It could have been cleaner, definitely, but they were able to just achieve the minimum of what they needed to get to make sure that the game didn't end right there on the spot. So it is actually surprisingly close, right? The MDL champions showing us why a lot of people have been seeing them as a bit of a dark horse. And Blacklist International now having to be much more careful. It is clear that Lazy still makes mistakes, right? Shizo, if he didn't get caught out in that previous team fight, could have completely changed how it went. So it is anyone's game at this point. You just have to see who is able to operate a bit more cleanly.
I think Perziva also tried to find a solution to stay alive longer. I believe he got a Winter Crown for this next fight. I know someone got a Winter Crown Blacklist, so Perziva is the one that makes the most sense. He's gonna start the aggro on the Lord, but if you're lazy, you're really not in a rush to take this objective, right? Let Blacklist do the work and just, you know, continue to stiff arm them, continue to poke them from afar, let that top wave build up, and eventually Blacklist will have to deal with it.
Yeah. Right now though, 16 minutes in, LZE Esports genuinely has to be very wary of MP and outplayed positions, right? These 2 heroes do a lot of damage!
The Haji Cash, stolen final slash, the 1-for-1, Sky Piercer takes down Perziva, the front line just disappeared! Crimson Beacon from Chosker trying to grab MP back, MP now goes down! Completely blown up, and Pinkman, he's the one with the Winter Crown. James Punks finds a double kill in the process as Pinkman now with the yo-yos actually was able to take down Shizo, but still James Punks, money on the prize, takes the Lord, final slash, well done by Dur, and his outplay against Jove and James Punk, and he just cannot hold on. Shut down by the Suyo. LZE Esports finds the wipeout.
Beautifully played by LZE Esports. There was good attempts coming in here from Blacklist International to try and turn that fight around. But with that wipeout and minions already in the base of Blacklist, LZE Esports will upset the turntables and take game number 1.
We did come into this series predicting it to be a 2-1 in favor of Blacklist. So that 1 has been achieved by LZE, but it could go even further from here.